What's good, everybody? It's the Clown with Cap show. What a weekend for college football. Really disappointed in the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. It's hard to be a Notre Dame fan. It really is, because we expect so much year in and year out. And I kind of had this in the back of my mind that, when they opened up with Florida State, they just did not look like a good Notre Dame team. They look worse than they did last year when they lost to Bama in the college playoffs. And to me, it was just like it added up, and I just didn't see the fire in it. And I didn't. And I think this was really payback for Brian Kelly, the way he just ended his coaching career in Cincinnati back in 2010. So I think that had a little to do with the situation, what was going on there. I just think, for Notre Dame, it's back to the X's and O's. You guys are out. We know that. Brian Kelly understands that the season's over. We don't have a chance to win a BCS national championship yet again for Notre Dame. I mean, since 1988, it's been so long, dude. It's disappointing. It hurts. It really does hurt. And really, Cincinnati won because of their quarterback, Desmond Ridder. Like I said, they had to put pressure on him to have a chance here, and Notre Dame did the exact opposite. They let him stay in the pocket. He really did what he wanted to do with 297 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. And I'm thinking, why didn't Notre Dame just keep blitzing this kid? Yeah, I mean, let him sit back there all day. And I understand sometimes they were sending different coverage blitzes, different zone blitzes, but it's just like it wasn't enough for Notre Dame. They just didn't have it. And it looked like Cincinnati wanted it more. It really did, especially in the first half. Going up 17-0, it was just like, wow, dude. Notre Dame just looked on their heels ever since. Kyron Williams, yeah, he scored a touchdown. Didn't really get into that groove. We just see the Notre Dame quarterbacks in and out. Jack Cohn, I don't think he's 100%. That's why they took him out. That's what I believe. But, at the end of the day, Cincinnati, they deserve where they're at. 100%. And I think, Cincinnati, they're going to get it in 3 or 4 seed if they win out their schedule. We have to understand they went undefeated last year, and really bad coaching is what led up to their loss against Georgia in that bowl game. So, I mean, a lot of things, it was really coaching and what had nothing to do with the players. The players played great. And if they could compete against Georgia, I mean, look at Georgia now. Georgia and Alabama and Georgia right now, top 1 and 2. Those are the top dogs right now. But, Cincinnati's right there. Shout out to the Cincinnati Bearcats. They got the dub. Me being a Notre Dame fan, I'm going to have to wait yet another year before we even touch the playoffs yet again. And yes, a lot of one-loss teams here out there, but Notre Dame, they're done. They are done. Their season's over. They'll get a good bowl game, maybe a Peach Bowl, maybe an Orange Bowl at best. I just think, it's disappointing, man. I'm really upset about it. I am. Like, I want to cry about it because it's just like, how? Like, how are we losing to Cincinnati at home? It never would have happened 10, 15 years ago. It really wouldn't. I'm just telling you, but shout out to the Cincinnati Bearcats. They got the dub. Then we got Iowa versus Maryland. I told you guys to go Iowa in this one. They were only 3-point favorites, and they blew them out. Blew them out, and Maryland threw 5 picks, and really that was the difference maker. And Iowa came out to play. Spencer Petrez, their quarterback, 3 touchdowns. Tyler Goodson, 19 carries, 66 yards. He also had 2 receptions for 85 yards and a touchdown. And really, Iowa never looked back. Blew him out. Wasn't really a game. Now, Iowa has the biggest game yet coming up this weekend against Penn State. That's going to be epic. I can't wait till then. But Iowa handled business. Hey, they're undefeated. A lot of teams in the Big Ten are still undefeated. Michigan State, Iowa, Penn State, Michigan. It's going to be great. I cannot wait to see what holds for the Big Ten football. Then we got Arkansas versus Georgia. Georgia shut out Arkansas 37-0. I mean, shut them out. And crazy thing is, last week, Arkansas really played well because KJ Jefferson, their quarterback, really balled out against Texas A&M. But this is Georgia, a different defense, different look. And even Georgia's starting quarterback, JT Daniels, was out with the lat injury. So I think that played a little factor, but it really didn't. I mean, Georgia, they put pressure on you. They fly around the ball. They are the best defense in the country right now, hands down. No doubt about it. Shutting out Arkansas, that is crazy, dude. Big win for the Georgia Bulldogs. They are number 2, man. They are number 2 right now in the rankings, and they're well-deserved. Then we got Michigan versus Wisconsin. I told you guys to go Michigan. They handled business 38-17. They got the job done. Shout out to Cade, their quarterback, 197 yards and 2 touchdowns. And really, for Harbaugh, Coach Harbaugh, it's like, dude, what are you going to do? Your brother's a Super Bowl champion. He beat you in the Super Bowl. Now you're at Michigan. Really haven't done much against Michigan. Haven't even beat Ohio State yet. But this is the year that Michigan can really beat Ohio State. I can't wait for that game. Huge win by Michigan. Then we got Louisville versus Wake Forest. Wake Forest with the upset. I told you guys to go Wake Forest. I love this pick. I just think Louisville, they were all just one focus on their quarterback, Cunningham, which he did have a good game, 2 touchdowns, and then he had that pass to Tyler Harrell with that 75-yard touchdown. But I just think overall, man, shout out to Wake Forest. Who would have thought Wake Forest would be undefeated right now? Who would have thought they beat Louisville this year in 2021? No one. No one would have thought that except the Wake Forest. Sam Hartman, 324 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and only 1 pick. That was the difference maker right there. And this was a close game, but Wake Forest ended up pulling it out and got the dub. Shout out to Wake Forest. Then we got Ole Miss versus Bama. Bama, like I said, #1 team in the country for a reason. They always have it, dude. It's Bama versus really everybody else. And yes, Georgia's at #2 looking down, but I just think Bama, it's really, they control their dynasty year in and year out. And it starts with Nick Saban, the head coach, just training their athletes. Hey, we are #1. We are the best at what we do. We will teach you discipline. We will teach you how to respect your opponents, but also win. Win. That's all he does. So I love Nick Saban, what he's doing in Bama, man. And Bryce Young, like I said, continues to ball out. 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Brian Robinson Jr. had 36 carries, 171 yards rushing, and 4 touchdowns. That was the difference right there. Bama being able to run the ball and get back in that groove. I think that's great for Bama. Where, traditionally, yes, Bama's always a run team, but, as of lately, the past couple games, they weren't a run team against Florida Gators, those type of opponents. But I think with that running game on, Bama, dude, they're going to win out. They're going to be #1 team in the country into the college playoff. I can't wait to see what that holds. And what a surprise this weekend. Oregon getting upset by Stanford. I told you guys to go Oregon. I'd even give you guys 11 points, but Oregon just did not come out and play. And really, it's disappointing because if Oregon just would have won out their schedule, beat Stanford, handle business in overtime, they would have easily gotten the college playoff. Now, Oregon's on the outside looking in, which is sad. And Anthony Brown, their quarterback, he went 14 for 26. Really didn't have a good game. 186 yards and an interception. That's just not enough, dude. You're playing Stanford here. Stanford's not an undefeated team. They're not a top 25 team in the country. So, why are you guys losing to them? You guys beat Ohio State, and then lose to Stanford? It just doesn't make any sense to me. But Oregon, they're done. Yes, they could maybe get into that 4th seed, but right now with the 1 loss, Oregon's best bet was just to win out, go undefeated, and get into that college playoff. Now they're on the outside looking in, and really, shout out to Tanner McKee, man. 230 yards, 3 touchdowns against Oregon. Dude, hey, they were on it, man. Elijah Higgins, 6 receptions, 62 yards and a touchdown. And really, Stanford, they were just better on the offense and defensive line as well, and I think that was the difference maker. And Oregon, like I said, I'm really surprised. I thought they would really destroy Stanford. I really did. According to the numbers, the papers, they should have, but, shoulda, coulda, woulda. Big win for Stanford. Oregon, I think your hopes of making the playoffs are really falling right now. It sucks, but it's sad. Then we got Oklahoma versus Kansas State. Oklahoma was an 11.5 point favorites. I told you guys to go money line on this one because I had that feeling that this game's going to be super close, and Oklahoma just squeaked it out yet again. And we're seeing that a lot, right? With Oklahoma, they're squeaking out these wins. Spencer Rattler, 243 yards passing, 2 touchdowns and a pick. I just think, in the running back, Kennedy Brooks, 15 carries, 91 yards, and a touchdown. I just think for Oklahoma, it's like, you guys play Texas at Texas next week. That's a huge game. I just think Oklahoma's really not good on a defense. And sometimes even on offense with Spencer Rattler, he has a lot of hype around him. I'm not saying he's not great. I just think, there's some throws that he throws where it's just like, why is he forcing that? I just don't like that. In a big game, you should not force those type of throws that he has in the past. I just think for Oklahoma, the secondary, the defense is weak and it gets exploited. And to me, it's just like, you're not going to win a national championship like that. So Oklahoma, yes, they're in the top 5, top 6, but it's just like Oklahoma's not going to win a national championship playing the way they are right now. So, good win for Oklahoma, but like I said, that's not a national championship level of play. Then we got Ohio State versus Rutgers. Ohio State handled business. C.J. Stroud, 330 yards passing with 5 touchdowns. Got back in that group. Ohio State's back. Yes, they beat Rutgers, blew them out. But, like I said, that's not the best competition. I'd rather see Ohio State play an SEC team than Rutgers. I get it, division, all that stuff, but it's just like, some of these cupcake teams that, these big-time schools play, it's like Ohio State, Notre Dame, even Bama, LSU, Auburn, they play some of the cupcake schools. It's just like, dude, I want every game to be a tough game. This is college football, but, good win for Ohio State. Could Ohio State possibly get in the playoffs with the one loss? It's a possibility now. After Oregon losing, Notre Dame losing, you just never know, and we do know either Iowa or Penn State's going to lose next weekend, so we just don't know. College football is crazy. Anything is possible. And another upset, Florida lost to Kentucky. I told you guys to go Florida Gators. The way they played Bama a couple weeks ago made me think, man, dude, Florida can run it out. But I was completely wrong on this one, and I really can't believe it. I thought, Florida, they had the possibility to get in as a one-loss team because they lost to Bama only by 2. But Emory Jones, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, really wasn't enough. But Will Levis, 87 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. But the difference was Kentucky's running game, and that started with Chris Rodriguez Jr., 19 carries, 99 yards, and a touchdown. And really, they just made better plays than Florida. And we saw at the end of the game, their student section, they stormed the field. They couldn't believe that they beat Florida Gators in Kentucky. Like crazy, right? You just don't see that every day. You don't see that every year. Normally, we see Florida, putting a beating on Kentucky. Not this time. And this was a huge upset. If anybody picked this upset, I salute you. I just never saw that coming. I really didn't. I thought, Florida was in that groove right now and just ready to go. But obviously, I was dead wrong on this pick. Shout out to Kentucky, man. Louisiana Tech versus NC State. NC State got the dub, barely. We saw them upset Clemson. And to me, Devin Learning, their quarterback, 251 yards and 2 touchdowns. That was the difference right there. Louisiana Tech, they came out to play. They handled some of their business. Austin Kendall, 3 touchdowns and 2 picks. Just didn't get the job done, though. At the end of the day, they lost in a close one. NC State was 18.5-point favorites. I told you guys, do not go the spread on that. That was dumb pick if you guys picked that. I think Moneyline was the smartest pick in that one. You guys would have cashed out with the Moneyline pick with that. So shout out to NC State. Then we got Mississippi State versus Texas A&M. This was the game where I was just totally off. I thought, for sure that, Texas A&M would come out and, win the game, but I was definitely way off on this pick. Way off, hats off to Mississippi State. They got the job done, and they did it flawlessly, and that started with Will Rogers, their quarterback, over 400 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. Malik Polk, 13 receptions, 126 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And really, Texas A&M, like I said, they're kind of one-dimensional. Good running team, that's it. And they get the ball a lot to their running back, Isaiah Spiller. He had 100 yards rushing this game. Really good game, but it just wasn't enough. And to me, Texas A&M, they're done. Their season's over. They'll get an okay bowl game, but, when I say done, don't go to the playoffs. I mean, that's the goal if you're in college, right, is to make it to the playoffs. That's the ultimate goal, and they failed that goal. And then we got Baylor versus Oklahoma State. I was picking Baylor, but last second I went Oklahoma State. They were at home. The way Spencer Sanders was playing, but he didn't really have a good game. 3 interceptions and just 1 touchdown, and they still won this game, dude. And they won by double figures, which is crazy. We don't really see that often, right? Oklahoma State putting up 3 turnovers, yet they still won soundly. They really did, and I just think, it had to do with Jalen Warren, their running back, 36 carries, 125 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He was the difference there. He saved his quarterback there. Essentially, probably saved his season right there. Oklahoma State's undefeated. They're breathing, and they can still get into that playoffs. You never know, but huge win by Oklahoma State over Baylor. I love that. Then we had IU versus Penn State. IU, dude, they had their opportunity in the first half, first quarter, and they went for it on 4th and 1. I thought they should have done like a play action or do a QB sneak with Michael Penix Jr. around the outside, and they just try to run it up the gut on Penn State, and Penn State has the top 3 defense in the country, and you guys are just going to run it up on them. I didn't like the play call, and essentially that's really what lost them the game. They got shut out 24-0. It's Sean Clifford, their quarterback, 3 touchdowns, only 1 pick. Dotson, the star receiver, he will be playing on Sundays. 8 receptions, 84 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I just think Michael Penix did not get in that groove, and IU just came out. They really came out looking good, but the big plays, they just did not capitalize. Like I said, the 4th and 1 in the first quarter, going for it there, you got to get it. You're the away team playing at Penn State. Penn State, top 4 team in the country, you got to get it. You got to get that, and those plays are really what determined why IU lost and got shut out. Big win for Penn State. Then we got Western Kentucky versus Michigan State. Michigan State, they got the dub. Shout out to Peyton Throne, their quarterback, 327 yards and 1 touchdown. Look, they're playing flawlessly. Michigan State, another undefeated team, dude. There's a lot of undefeated teams in the Big Ten, and so many people talk down on the Big Ten. It's like, really? Let's give the Big Ten some respect, at least, okay? The most undefeated conference right now. Name some other schools. I get it, Big 12, Oklahoma, Texas, all those, but I think the Big Ten is so underrated, and I think the competition is getting better and better in the Big Ten. In Michigan State, man, Kenneth Walker III, he had 24 carries, 126 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's why Michigan State won, because of the ground game. Their offensive line played well. Big win for Michigan State. Then we got Boston College versus Clemson. Clemson was 14.5. I told you guys to go money line on this pick because we saw Clemson is beatable. Clemson is not the same team. Is the dynasty over for Dabo Swinney? Absolutely not. This year it's over, yes. I think next year they need to get a quarterback. That's where they need to start. And I understand that Dabo Swinney knows that what he needs to do this offseason, and I think that's where he needs to go. But, a good win for Clemson. They only won 13-19, dude. These games, Clemson are tweaking by. Last year and the years prior, they would have blown out Boston College. It wouldn't even been a game. But now it is. I just think Clemson, they're on their heels. They might lose a couple more games. Who would have thought Clemson would be a 4 or 5 loss team at the end of the season this year? No one. No one thought that. I can't believe it either. But I would say a good win, but really it's a terrible win for Clemson. Then we got Auburn versus LSU. Auburn, let's go. I told you guys to go Auburn because of Bo Nix. Their quarterback is nice. 255 yards passing and a touchdown. They got it going, man. He had 12 carries, 74 yards, and a touchdown as well. In LSU, they just didn't capitalize in certain areas of the game, and really that's why Auburn won. And LSU was favorite at home. I understood that, but I still went Auburn because they were more battle-tested. They played better competition leading up to this game. That's why ultimately I went Auburn and Bo Nix. Big win for Auburn. Then we got Arizona State versus UCLA. Probably the worst game. I was way off. I picked UCLA, and they got blown out by Arizona State. It was actually embarrassing for UCLA. And I'm thinking for UCLA, it's just dude, how are you guys, you guys beat LSU at the beginning of the year, and now all of a sudden you guys just suck? I don't understand it, dude. I really don't, man. Jaden Daniels, 286 yards and 2 touchdowns for Arizona State. That was the difference right there. He was able to do what he ever wanted to do against that UCLA. UCLA's defense is trash. I can't believe it. I really can't, from beating LSU to that. But, hey, shout out to Arizona State. They got the big win. But overall, it's really disappointing for me. Yeah, and I didn't miss that many games, but I say disappointing because of Notre Dame. It's just man, year in and year out. And Notre Dame has high expectations year in and year out. Absolutely. But it comes to the point where it's it's every year we see the same story. If not the same story, 2 different stories. We lose one game, which we should have won, and then we miss out, or we make the playoffs and get blown out by a good team, like we did a couple years ago against Clemson. Alabama twice. We lost to Georgia back in 19. So these big games that Notre Dame continues to lose, I think we definitely do have to look at Brian Kelly. Yes, the most winningest Notre Dame coach of all time. I respect that, but for Brian Kelly, his next thing is, look, we got to win big games now. Okay, yes, we can win in the regular season. We can win some of these cupcake games. I wouldn't say Wisconsin game is a cupcake game, but ultimately, we got to win games like Cincinnati, USC, Michigan. Even if we play like LSU or SEC team, they got to win these games. And historic, looking back, we haven't, though. We haven't. In the past decade, we've been terrible in big games. It's been devastating, but for Notre Dame moving forward, it's going to be a long way. You're not going to make the playoffs this year. That's it for Notre Dame. It's sad, but on the flip side is they're continuing to get better and they're young, so I respect that. But for me, it's just like, man, we win so much. Why are we losing big games? I don't like that. But for Cincinnati Bearcats, hey, they are on the map. They were on the map last year. They kind of got disrespected, lost to Georgia, which really they should have won that game. I think, if we look back, dude, really Cincinnati could be on a 20-some game winning streak without the Georgia game, which is crazy to think, right? I just think, Cincinnati really underrated, and they proved to me that they are a top 10 team in the country, that they probably are a top 5 team in the country. So hats off to them, man. I'm very disappointed in Notre Dame. What a shitty week 5 for college football. It's the Clown with Cam show. Let's go!